My name is Ryan, and I've decided to try my hand at becoming a professional day trader. So, for the past few weeks, I've been doing some pretty extensive research on different days trading strategies. I've looked at a lot of resources online. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, looked at a lot of live trading videos to see what some of these other professional full time day traders are doing, what their strategies are, just trying to really understand their thought process, what they recommend, and how they go about being profitable over the long term. So, day trading is something that I've actually tried in the past. And knowing what I know now from doing a lot of this research, I understand why it didn't work for me the first time. So, the very first time I tried day trading, which was quite a long time ago, probably 4 or 5 years, I was using the Robinhood app for all of my trades. I didn't have an online desktop brokerage that I was using at all. I wasn't using a very large account, so I was limited to the PDT three trades per 5 day window rule. So all of my trades had to be profitable. All of my trades had to be a big win. And if I couldn't get that, I sort of felt like it wasn't worth it. So I would always shoot for massive winner every single time I made a trade. I was also can recognize that I was definitely letting my emotions play a very large role in a lot of the decisions I was making back then. And as a result, I wasn't profitable. I lost all the money that I put in. Then I had re up the account and I lost it again. And looking back, I still have access to all of those trades and all that data from what took place. And I can see where I screwed up. I can see where I was making mistakes. And this time, I've taken the time to properly educate myself to the best that I can. But I'm going to be using TD Ameritrade's or now Schwab's Thinkorswim platform. And I'm going to be using the simulator. I'm going to be trading with paper money. So I'm not going to use real money until I am consistently seeing a lot of green days and green weeks in a row. And I feel very confident that I can load my account with enough funds to not deal with the PDT rule. But I'm going to really be practicing and doing a lot of continued research and really striving to nail down a strategy that I can be consistent with. So that being said, I've looked at a lot of different strategies. I've looked at a lot of different traders online. I have found a couple people, one in particular that I really, really connect with, that I really like. The strategy just really makes sense to me. I'm really confident that this particular person I've been getting a lot of information from is somebody that is trustworthy, somebody that has really good intentions with the content they create. And it's not somebody that's just creating content to try to make money by teaching something that they can't actually do. So that is part one of this, is that I just spent a lot of time doing a lot of research. And now I'm going to start implementing all of that into actual paper trading to see what happens when I actually go to the market with the things that I'm learning, see how well I can execute it, and see if I can be profitable. That also being said, I didn't get the idea to start filming this series until day three of this process. So actually, days one and two have already taken place. And in this video, I'm going to give you the recap of the trades I took. I'm going to show you the charts. I'm going to tell you what my thought process was, explain why I made some of the trades that I made. And my goal with this whole series is that anybody else who might be thinking about getting into day trading or really wanting to, they can watch this series and they can watch me go through the same process they may already be or am going to be going through. So they can learn and they can understand what to expect, and they can hopefully do it the right way. And I'm going to be totally transparent throughout this whole process. I'm going to show you every single trade that I make. And I'm also going to show you my thought process. I'm going to explain what I'm thinking. I'm going to explain what I'm seeing, and I'm going to try to stick to the plan without fail. My presumption is that I'm going to be able to manage my emotions throughout this process very, very well. Now, that may change. I could be totally wrong, and maybe everybody thinks that. I don't know. That's kind of one of the things I want to find out by doing this series, and some of the things that you'll be able to find out if you watch this entire series as it unfolds. I think I'm going to be able to manage the emotions really, really well. I think I'm going to have a decent time creating a solid plan for every trade, for every entry, and then sticking with that plan regardless, right? So if I get to a level where I need to be selling and bailing out, I'm going to do that. If I get to a level where I need to be taking profit, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to be chasing a stock up that doesn't have an entry that aligns with the strategy. I'm going to try to execute every element of the plans that I create for each trade flawlessly to the best of my abilities. And so far, I've done that. So let's go and give you a recap of what happened on days one and two. So that way you can see where I'm at now. Both of those were green days. and they were profitable days. So I'm going to take you into my screen right now. We're going to look at that and I'm going to break it down for you. All right. So, one of the things that I have done is I've actually created this spreadsheet just so I can track all of the trades I take a little more easily. So I can come back and review them no matter how far into the future it gets. I know exactly what day and what time I took what trades and what the position, the result of those trades were. So I have the ticker over here, the date. You can see the sheet, the price, the number of shares that I traded in that particular transaction, and then if it was a profit or if it was a loss, or if it was a buy, then obviously it doesn't track it there. And then I have my running P&L right over here. So for now, for the 24th, we're just going to focus on these first few rows here. And we're going to take a look at these and we're going to see where that wound up. Now, I did end this period of the 24th with a $2,880 profit. Now, this is using $100,000 of buying power and paper money. So basically simulating a $25,000 account with 4x leverage. Now, this was actually an error, right? This one share. This was just me not understanding the hotkeys, or just the first time using a hotkey, and it only executed one share. So, and then I actually did that again down here. You can see I made the same mistake twice. So at this point, I had stopped using the hotkeys so much, and I more or less just focused on clicking the actual buttons to make sure in Active Trader to make sure to execute exactly the way I want. So the real buy-in here was at 774 at 950 on the 24th. So let's go take a look at that. So this is the 24th. So we're going to go open this up, and TD Ameritrade is showing my time as not the local time. I did try to adjust it. I don't know what's going on, but it's an hour behind. So 8:30 is actually 9:30, and you can see this is market open. I am in Eastern time, and that trade took place at 9:49. So we're going to be looking for 8:49. And this right here was my entry. So we're going to expand this a little bit, just like that. And so 49 is going to be right in here. And you can see I have this little trend line that I drew. And my exit from this trade was going to be, my first exit was at 790, and I sold half the position. So I'm just going to run through my thought process on this. So what I was looking for at 849. So I was watching this little pullback happen here. Let's grab a little bit more of the chart. So if we go back to, this is the 24th here, I believe. Yes. So let's grab actually the entire day and zoom that in. So this showed up on the scanner as something that was gapping up. And I have a scan set up that I'm using, and it's looking for a few things. It's looking for stocks that are priced under $20 a share. It's looking for a relative volume of 3x or greater. I wanted to set it to 5x, but the scanner I'm using doesn't allow me to check for, it only allows me to go up to 3x or greater. So I settled for that. I'm looking for a float, or an shares outstanding of less than 20 million. And I'm also looking for things that have gapped up 10% on the day. So this is one of the ones that popped up, ALT. And as I was watching this, right, we watched the pre-market a little bit, and then it came up, it gapped up really, really nicely, and then it pulled back, and I started watching for the bounce back up. And so this is where we wound up here. So at 849, I saw this pullback here, this little pullback from the trend up. And then it started to consolidate a little bit. We got this bullish, it's a small bottoming tail, but it's still nonetheless a bottoming tail. And then I'm looking for the first candle to make a new high. So as I was watching this one play out, initially on this candle, this is where I actually purchased that one share. If we go back to the spreadsheet, that's where I wanted to enter at 773, and it only purchased one share. And then I got a little flustered, and then I have to figure it out. It took me about a minute to figure it out. And then I ultimately just went into the Active Trader, which is going to be right over here. And I just hit the buy ask button. So I'm buying on the ask. Coming back over here now, I wound up getting in at 774. So basically the same price. And I just watched this thing. And at this point, my max loss was going to be right in here. So if this dipped to 763 or 762, at that point, I was going to bail out. I was going to get out of the trade. I was also looking at the volume. I was watching the volume decrease as these sell orders were coming through from what it was at when it was going up. So I was also keeping an eye on the level two, and I was seeing that the buying was really strong, and then we also saw a lot of green on the tape. So everything was there. So I decided to pull the trigger and do the buy in right in here. I had that little mishap, and then I wound up getting in somewhere over here at 774. So now at this point, I'm in. And at this point, I'm not getting out unless we get an obvious sell signal or this hits my max loss, which is 763, 762, just underneath the low of the previous candle from entry. So I start riding this up. And where I wound up getting out, if we refer back to the sheet, I wound up getting out at 955, 957, and 958 at 790, 784, and 778. So if we were to go to 955 here, which is going to be right here, here I took a little profit because I was up. I hit my profit target, right, which was about 15 to 20 cents. So we got in at 774. We made it up to almost 790, which was close to 25 cents or 26 cents. And I saw it going up past my take profit. So I took half off the table. Then I held the rest of the position. I wanted to see if there was going to be more to the move, which brings us up to 957, 958 a.m., which is going to be this candle right here. And at this point, this candle turned red. It started pulling back. It made a low lower than the previous candle. And that was the exit for my strategy. And we had higher volume on that downward portion of the trend. So that was all my signals to get out. And as a result, that trade worked out exactly how we planned, right? It did exactly what we wanted to do. We had so if we look at the running P&L, we had 800, 300, and then an additional $80. So we sold 5,000, 3,000, and then 2001 to get rid of that extra share I picked up by mistake. So that was a really good first trade. And at this point, I'm feeling really good. And I said, I'm going to sit here. We're going to keep watching the chart, see if this is just going to be a pullback or if it's going to be a reversal. And we're going to get back in if everything looks good. So at 10:03, I submitted another buy order for 10,000 shares at 787. So let's take a look at that. So if we come over here, 10:03 is actually going to be 9:03 because of the time frame, and we have the same exact situation. We have volume increasing. We have a new high after a decent pullback, right? A healthy pullback, but it didn't dip below that previous low, right? It's making a new low. This candle did a higher low, suggesting that the trend's going to continue. And as I'm watching, right, this one didn't dip quite as low, maybe for a second, but it actually didn't. And then this candle made a new high over this one. So then this was 10:03. This was my entry, and we got in at 787. So we got in a little bit higher than I would have liked to. I would have liked to have got in like right here. But obviously still learning, figuring out, hitting the buttons. I didn't want to make the same mistake as before. It took me a little bit to get in there. And then we rode this up. So if we go back over to the sheet, we can see that I exited. I exited down here at 10:06, 10:06, and 10:07. And again, I made the same mistake. I used my hotkeys again. I sold one share when I wanted to actually sell half the position. And then I wound up selling the whole position within 10 seconds of each other. But we wound up selling at 8:06, at 10:06, 10:07. So if we watch the chart and we come back, right? So if we go to 10:03, this was the entry right here. And we rode this up, right? We made a new high. This candle came down, but it didn't make a new low. So we stayed in, and our max loss was going to be down here at 769, 768, 770, somewhere in there was going to be our max loss. And we rode this up, right? It started kind of being a little indecisive, and then it pushed up a little further. And again, we hit our profit target, which was 15 to 20 cents. So I took half off the table. And then I saw this red candle coming, and I says, okay, I think we're going to keep going down because we had this little bit of a topping tail here, right? So it creeped all the way up to 811, and then this was a high of day. So it didn't sustain that. It pushed down pretty quickly, and then it tried a little more, and it kept pushing down, and it kept pushing down. So at that point, I just sold right out of the position. And as a result of that, you can see we have a 19 cent, a $950, and then a $749 profit, bringing us to a total of $2,880 in profit for day one, which would be on a $100,000 portfolio. This would be about a 2.8% return. And I was thrilled. I was thrilled to have that. This was something I was really, really happy with. This was a great day, in my opinion. So at that point, I said, you know what? What everybody says is don't overtrade, don't overstay your welcome. So I didn't. I says, okay, this is a good profit day. We're green. Probably one of the best first days I could ask for. So I'm going to go ahead and just call it quits right here. That being said, it doesn't mean I didn't continue to watch the charts. And as you can see, there was more opportunities here, right? So in hindsight, right, if we're looking at this, I got out, right? This was our exit right up here, right? And we didn't have a massive pullback. We didn't have a reversal. We continued to trend up. So if I wanted to stay and keep trading, right? I didn't want to trade too many legs, right? One of the things I hear people say a lot, I hear other traders say is, I get a little cautious past the third leg. And I says, well, for me as a brand new beginner, cautious is just don't trade, but let's keep an eye on it. And let's learn and let's observe. So I could see here too, right? If I was following the same strategy and just continuing to watch the chart right here at 10, which this would be 10:11 a.m. Eastern, right? We have another entry right here because we break this high and we go through at 788, which is the same buy-in as before. So 788, right? And our max loss would be right down here, 779, 778. And we could have gotten into here and we wouldn't actually get any sell signals until all the way up to here. And we would have gotten out right about here. Also, having taken profit on the way up because we'd hit our 15 to 20 cents profit target. So I would have sold part of the position there. I'm not looking to add to the position. I know some traders might, instead of selling, they might add here. I'm not looking to be that aggressive. So I just took half the profit out right here. I would have just taken half the profit out right here, right? I'm playing it out of my head what I would have done. And then I would have ridden this up and then this would have came down. And then at this point, right, the plan would signal to exit right here at 811 at the previous high. I also probably would have been a little cautious of maybe we're not going to break through this high, so I may have sold even more once we got to this point, right? I can probably envision that, being that we'd be getting in around 790, I'd probably sell some around 805, and then once we hit that 811 mark or get close to it, I'd probably start selling a little bit there or looking to exit. Or I might just say, you know what, I'm happy with this is more green, let me get the hell out of here. But instead, if not, right, if I were to follow the strategy and just not exit until it tells me to, this would have been my time to get out. So again, that would have been another profitable position, right? And as we look at it, right, the moves aren't as clean or as clear in this next leg. So you would have gotten in here, right? But then this could give you, it's respecting the 20 EMA. That's what this green line is. It's respecting that pretty well here. But we do have this indecisive candle. So we don't know what's going to happen here. This is like a doji candle here. And then we have this topping tail. So here I may not have taken an entry. It turns out that if I did take an entry, right, I would have probably wound up getting out right around my break even. But we have some signals here that I could look at that prior to making that decision, I may have just decided I'm not going to take this trade just because of these signals that I'm seeing here. But hindsight's always 2020, so who knows what would have happened. Ultimately, the decision was made. I'm not going to make any trades after the second trade, after the second leg, um, unless there's a really clear and obvious opportunity. Now over here we get it, but at this point we're looking at much later. We're looking at an hour later from when we originally got in, which isn't a reason for me not to trade according to the strategy. But look at how many legs we have. Look at how many, and then you have some consolidation, some indecision. The pattern's not really matching. And I understand no chart's going to be perfect, but It's not really matching as well as I would have liked to. And in addition to that, it's starting to look a little messy down here on the volume too, right? The volume's not matching the pattern the same way it was back here. So these would have just been indicators that, okay, maybe this is me overstaying my welcome, and let me get out of here. The other thing we see too up here is that we broke through this 20 EMA, which is something that looking through the rest of the day, we really hadn't done except for maybe briefly over in some of these areas here. For the most part, it kept bouncing right off of that 20. And then over here, we actually get a dip below after having a really considerably tall topping tail, and then some indecision, and then red candles to follow. So this is probably an area where I would have been a little bit cautious and been uncertain as to whether or not this trend is going to continue, and maybe we're just going to have another little bit of green, but then we're going to sell off further. So at this point, I would have probably just stayed right out altogether because the strategy says to stay away, even though I would have been wrong, and I would have seen that this price action continued to rally upwards, and this would have been a really, really nice trade to be involved in. But at the same time, right, if I'm following the plan and executing it perfectly, I can't take that trade. So now let's take a look at day two, which is on the 25th, which was RGS. And I only had one trade on this day. And I learned something very, very important going through this process. And it really threw me for a loop. So, in terms of my portfolio, you'll actually see that we're at a 9,300 running total profit and loss, but my portfolio doesn't actually reflect that. And I'm going to tell you why. So, something I didn't know when I was trying to enter this trade is that TD Ameritrade, or Schwab's Thinkorswim, doesn't actually allow you to enter any positions in the pre-market or after hours. So, as you can see, this took place at 8:56 Eastern Time, AM, and it was pre-market, and I was watching this chart and looking for my entry, and I submitted the order. I used my hotkeys. I got that figured out. So I'm not buying one share. I'm just buying the position I want to buy, which was half of the original, right? This was only 5,000 because the price is a little bit higher. So I wanted to, I didn't want to not have enough buying power to fill the position. And what happened was my order just sat there and it didn't fill. In TD Ameritrade, in Thinkorswim, it didn't allow me to actually submit the order to get into the trade in the simulator. So now I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And as soon as that happened, right? So we'll show you this. We'll go to the 25th at 8:56 a.m. and we'll look at where this was at 13:44. So we'll go to RGS and let's see, we're in the 26th right now. Let's go back to the 25th, and we're going to go to, we're looking at the pre market. So I actually got to grab a little bit more of this. And we're looking at, we're going to be right about here, right in here. So let's highlight this. So this is what I was looking at. So let me get to the exact spot. We're right here. So I'm watching this pattern. I'm watching this chart trend upward, and I'm trending upward, and everything's looking really, really good. We're following this 20 EMA really, really nicely, using it as support. We've got volume bars decreasing as the price is coming down. We get sort of an indecision green candle, and then we make a new high, and boom, I submit the order. So my limit order is just sitting here on the screen. It's not filling. It's not actually putting me in the position. And my first thought is I can't have a liquidity issue, right? Is it trying to suggest that if this was a real order, then there wouldn't be enough liquidity in the market to fill it, right? So, and I bought on the ask, so it should just let me right in, but it didn't. And then as soon as I did that, I watched this thing just start sliding upward really, really quickly. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Right? I just missed this whole move, right? This would have been a great entry. I just missed this entire move because of something that's going on with the software. Well, I stayed in it and I kept watching, and I'm watching and I'm watching, and the order never filled, so I canceled it. And then once we got down to about here, I says, okay, this is my exit. So then I was hovering over the button. I still kept my composure and I behaved as if I was actually in the trade, and this would have been my exit. This would have, right, we rode this up and then we would have gotten out right here. And we could see on the spreadsheet that I actually marked this as 1474 at 901. So if we come back here, right, we're in 901 and we're at 14, 74. And this candle, this price actually was moving really, really quickly. I mean, just in this candle alone, we range from 1586 all the way down to 1440. So it's a 1.5 point swing here, and this would have been my exit. This is when when I hit the button, I said I'm going to get out. And in my monitor tab, it actually shows the canceled orders from yesterday. They're in there. I attempted to submit the orders. It didn't allow me to. So following this trade, I did a little bit of research and I went on Google and I went on Reddit and I went to a few different places, and come to find out that I wanted to figure out what I did wrong. I spent a bunch of time really looking into this, and I wanted to figure out, right, why did I lose this trade, right? Why did I not able to submit this order? And come to find out that this platform just doesn't allow you to enter or exit or create any kind of order when that's going to fill when you're using paper trading in the pre-market or after hours. So you can only actually create trades that will reflect in the balance here during the actual market hours. Um, so the conclusion I drew from this was that, okay, if I was actually trading, which is obviously the goal, then I would have been able to enter this position, right? And I want to track my performance and track my progress based on the decisions I would have made, the execution of those decisions, and what were the result of every decision that I made. Did I make a conclusive decision that I want to get in and want to get out? And the answer for this one was yes, that even though it didn't actually happen, there was a very conclusive decision that yes, I wanted this to happen. And I intended for this to happen. So I tracked it on the spreadsheet anyways. And as a result of this trade, this was a $6,500 profit. So, and the trade was about, right, if we do a little math here, it's about 65 grand to enter the position. If we come back to the chart here and we go to our marks, so we go to 1374 and we just make a mark up to our exit, that is a 7.6, 7.5% um, trade. That's a very, very nice, very, very profitable, um, excellent trade. And at this point, I'm feeling like, this plan is really working really, really well. And I'm not in, by any stretch, looking to deviate from this strategy. So at this point, I'm going to be very, very diligently and actively only trading these very specific setups. And if that means that I don't take a trade that day, it means I don't take a trade. What I'm really looking for is consistency. I'm okay with going many days in a row and not even entering a position, because I've noticed that in a lot of the content I've been watching and in a lot of the different trainings I've been watching and a lot of the things I've been learning is that when you deviate from the plan, that's when things start to go south. And then when things start to go south, that's when the emotions get really, really intense and difficult to manage and control. Now, obviously, those emotions aren't going to be the same with a paper account, right? And this, I'm more or less approaching it from a very logical and analytical perspective. So I'm looking to make the decisions as best of my abilities right now and constantly getting better at making those decisions. But I'm also looking to make sure I follow through with the plan to a T so I can get a really, really good test subject, collect a lot of data that I can use to come to a conclusive decision as to whether or not this is going to work or not. And if it doesn't work, that means either I'm just not cut out to be a trader, number one, or number two, there's some problems with this strategy. It's not going to work, and I need to come up with something else. So that's going to conclude this first video of this series, this introduction video where we covered day one and day two. And also, I shared with you my story and some of my intentions and the purpose for creating this series. So, if you want to keep following me along this journey and see it in real time, I'm going to be uploading every single day. Updates to what happened that day. I'm going to be giving you live trading. I'm going to be recording my screen while I'm actively taking the trades. And then what I'm going to do is also give you just a quick recap of anything else that I think is worth mentioning after the fact. So this can hopefully give you a really good opportunity to kind of see the thought process of somebody that's just learning this and going through it for really the first time. Starting as brand new with no experience and no track record or anything like that. I'm just basically executing on things that I've learned from self-educating on the subject. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and leave a like on this video because that'll help the algorithm. Feel free to follow along to see how this pans out over the long term, and hopefully we can eventually get to where we have a lot of consecutive wins that give me the confidence and give me a good solid reason to believe that I can be profitable even with real money in a funded account, because that's where we're eventually looking to go. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next installment.